93, 93, 93. This is the Mon Asha Renew from AshaRenew.com. Here for another news update. So in this particular article, it says U.S. facing Halloween candy shortage. Hershey CEO said that supply chain issues could leave shelves empty. Let me highlight a couple things here. So this is a direct quote. We will not be able to fully meet consumer demand. And they are blaming this on supply chain issues. Now, if we're talking about supply chain issues, we're dealing with trade. We're dealing with having enough truckers to transport goods. Then we have to have the people that deal with the import and the export, with the incoming ships that's carrying the supplies from other nations, other countries. So basically, because of all the supply chain backup, it's really a supply chain backup. And once again, this backup is due to the karmic energies, specifically dealing with Pisces, as Jupiter and Neptune are retrograde. So, of course, we have been speaking about supply chain issues for quite some time now. However, it's coming to a standstill pretty much because of the hyper inflation, not just the inflation, but also the hyperactivity of the constellation of Pisces. Now, what makes this interesting is, let me go back up just a little bit. There we go. What makes this interesting is we understand Halloween represents the opening of a portal. What I mean by that is we go into the dark side of the year after Halloween. Halloween is when the gateways or the portals open up for the so-called darker forces going into the season of Scorpio. Because Scorpio starts on the 23rd of October. So once Halloween is in effect, that is occurring in the season of Capricorn. Not Capricorn, what am I thinking about? Scorpio. So Halloween takes place in the season of Scorpio, which is a season of death. And we know candy is not necessarily healthy. If you eat too much candy, you can rot your teeth. It could potentially lead to your death with all the sugars. So it's not necessarily the healthiest thing, but we also understand that children like candy because they are connected to spirits, and spirits like candy. So whatever the spirits like, children are going to like, because they are truly feeding the spirits, especially in the season of Scorpio, which is the season of death and resurrection, where the veils of the dark side become very thin. So as the veils begin to thin in the season of Scorpio, this is why we have an increase for a demand of candy, because more spirits are amongst us around these times. So that's why people just get, just go crazy with the candy. Because we are feeding the shifts of energy going from, you can say, the more angelic forces to the more demonic forces. And because of the supply chain issues, we're having a hard time getting the necessary ingredients to produce this so-called candy, which is not good for us anyway. But again, it's not supposed to be good for us. It's simply feeding forces that are beyond our physical sight. So what's really going on is, what they're truly saying without saying it is, we will not be able to feed these demonic spirits as they come in the season of Scorpio like we usually have. I don't remember the last time when we had a candy shortage. So it's been quite some time since people have not been able to buy candy for Halloween. I don't even think this time has ever happened. Like, okay, we just don't have enough candy for Halloween. I don't ever remember that being an issue in my entire life. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I have no evidence. I have no memory of, oh, we're not going to be able to buy candy because the candy is not literally there to buy at all. They're also saying in this article, if you do find candy, you're going to be paying a higher tax. So let me go to the article that says that. So for the people that are fortunate to have candy, you're going to be hit with a grand tax. Here it is right here. While Americans might not be able to find all of the treats they want this year, those who can will also end up paying more for the privilege. So now they're calling it a privilege. Hershey is owned by the Swiss food giant Nestle, which announced on Thursday the unprecedented ingredient cost have forced it to increase its prices. So now what they're saying is, if you are able to find candy, we're going to have to charge you more. Now they're calling it a privilege. Now having candy for Halloween has become a privilege. So if you are able to find candy, you may not even want to buy it because the prices are going to go up. And they're saying, of course, it's because of the inflation, the supply chain issues, but somehow something that was the norm has now they're using a different type of language. Now something that was a norm has become a privilege. And don't expect these prices to go down anytime soon, because this is basically what they are preparing for us. All these things that were considered the norm will now start to become privileges, just like driving, because of all the gas hikes. Even having a car to drive has now become a privilege because you're paying more at the pump than we have ever paid. Basically, they said the prices for the gas have never been this high. So now driving has become a privilege, and now they're saying just to have candy on Halloween has become a privilege. So just listen to the wording that they use. Things that were considered normal are now becoming a privilege. Meaning only if you have enough money for this privilege will you be able to participate. Only if you have enough money for gas will you be able to drive. Only if you have enough money for food will you be able to eat. As we see up here, alcohol, meat, potatoes, toilet paper, dairy products, and pet food were amongst the goods missing from shelves at the beginning of this year. Prices have climbed too since Biden took office, with inflation rising from 1.4% in December 2020 to 7% in December 2021. While his administration described inflation as transitory throughout 2021, the rate has continued to rise, reaching a 4-decade high of 9.1% in June. And again, don't expect these prices to go down no time soon, because even though they are calling it transitory, that's just a language. They're not just going to straight up tell you that, okay, the prices are just going to stay high. They can't tell you that, because that would just be telling the truth. So of course they're going to dance around the truth and create little white lies just to stop the people from doing what the people in Baghdad are doing, storming the White House and storming, all of these places that the lawmakers go to make these laws, right? So expect to see more of this. Expect more things that were the norm to become a privilege, and expect them to use this twilight language to continue to deceive the people. And with that, I bear peace. 93, 93, 93.